A heavily redacted affidavit outlining the reasons behind the raid of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate has been made public. The 38-page statement details the government's efforts to recover classified records taken by Donald Trump while he was in power. Sky News correspondent Mark Stone.
Well, I have to say, initially when this document was released, and here it is, and you can see many bits of it completely useless to us because it's been completely blacked out. When we first looked at it, we thought, well, there's not going to be very much in this that we can glean because, as I say, much of it looks like this. But actually, the reality is there is some quite interesting stuff in here. The background first. The reason that this document is now out in the open is because there has been a public cry for it to be made public. And many news organisations in the United States have asked that it is in the public interest that the justification that the FBI used presented to a judge in private to allow for that raid on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home to happen. What was the justification? It should be made public, so argued very many people. The judge then considered that and said, OK, fine, I will release the affidavit, but much of it has to be redacted. Now, that brings us to a second document, which was the justification for the redactions. It's complicated, but important. The second, shorter document effectively says, look, if we release the affidavit without any redactions, it will put many witnesses who were part of the investigation that the FBI is still carrying out, an ongoing investigation. It will put those witnesses perhaps even in mortal danger, it suggests. So that is why the affidavit has to be redacted. But from the bits of it that aren't, we have discovered, I think, one very interesting fact, and that is that, remember, there were two groups of documents or boxes of documents that were passed from Donald, or taken from Mar-a-Lago and given in the first instance to the National Archive. Back in January, 15 boxes were handed voluntarily after a request by the National Archive from Mar-a-Lago to the National Archives. Now, within those documents, the FBI looked at them and discovered that very many of them were secret and top secret, marked secret and marked top secret. Very sensitive documents indeed that were being stored in a very insecure place in the basement of Mar-a-Lago, not the sort of place that these sorts of documents should be stored. Now, that January handing over of documents prompted the FBI to believe that many more documents were still in Mar-a-Lago, and that is what prompted the raid. Now, of course, the details of the raid and the investigation that led up to the raid, we don't know about that because, as I say, that they claim will put witnesses at risk. But this is very much an ongoing story. Remember, the idea that a federal agency could raid the private home of a former president of the United States, that is huge. It sent shudders across America. Allies of Donald Trump claiming, how dare they? And those on the other side of the political spectrum saying maybe this is the moment they finally get Donald Trump. It's a big story here. It's moving fast.